Hey, how's everyone today? So I thought I'd just do a quick video and show off the new Robo-Tank app. This hasn't been released yet, but beta will be coming out shortly. For starts, we will be able to monitor temperature, humidity, pH. You can control lights. There's different scheduling that you can do for that. You've got your AC outlets and your DC ports and your dosing pumps. You can create schedules for those as well. We have some custom rules and some basic charts. So that's where we'll start, and let's get into this. One thing to note about this video is the video and audio will get out of sync, just the way I'm making it here, so there'll be small segments cut up and stitched together. So enjoy. So this is our dashboard. We'll go over this. On the left side, you can see we've got our information for our sensors. We've got a little box here for our lighting. It tells you the current schedule or the current light mode and the mode coming up and when it starts. The icon right now, the image doesn't change, so that's just what it is. Over here we have our AC outlets, our DC ports, and our dosing pumps, and then we have all our graphs in the middle. At the bottom we have our dock. These are just shortcuts to navigate the program. A few of them don't work right now, like logs, alerts, and feed. It'll just tell you that feature isn't available. That will be coming soon though. And when you collapse this down for certain screen sizes, it will just kind of rearrange itself here. And then this is what you would get on a mobile phone. You can see the names disappear at the top. And typically you have 360 pixels, so we're 361. These just need to be centered, but you can navigate this, go to your settings, go home, it goes back. So these will have to be smaller for mobile, but this is the idea for now. Just as a start. So let's just get into, I guess that's it for our dashboards. Now I'll go over how you assign different functions to different ports on the controller. So if we go into our settings here, we have our configure ports. And we've got two modes, a simple and an advanced. The advanced is just a chart of this. The idea here is that you'll be able to interact with the actual controller, select the port that you want, so DC port 5, that's what that is on the controller. And you can select its function. You want it to be an AC outlet, an auto feeder, a DC port, a dosing pump, or a light. So this is the idea here. For sensors, for example, you can pick the different types of sensors. DHT22, the float switch, non-contact, optical, and other. Say you selected a non-contact. Later there'll be a little graph here that you can click and it'll show you how to set these jumpers, how to wire the sensor for that port. So it'll basically become a manual for the controller as well over time. Icon, there's about 60 here that you can choose from. We'll just change that. Invert logic, you can do yes or no, but that is on is off, off is on if it's inverted. That's the idea there. So yeah, that is this screen. And if you selected one of these, a backup port, it just tells you what its function is, ground pins, what it is. These you can't click on yet, but they will be coming. And yeah, advanced. So this is the advanced mode. So say you were going to change these for something else, you were doing a DIY, you'd come to your advanced, and then you would select whatever port, and you could edit it and do the same thing you did on the simple screen. Change the icon, it'll just bring up the drop down, select it, save it, and you're done. So let's do a little example here. On our home page we have DC2. Let's make it a dosing pump. So we'd come to here, I believe that is an LED port, yes, DC2. So let's change it to a dosing pump. Save, go home, now it's a dosing pump. Come back, and we can put it back to a DC port, save, and it's back in our DC ports. So that's how you move things for different functions. Now we'll talk about our AC outlets and our DC ports a little bit more. Oh, I should mention why these are flashing is in the back end I have them turning on and off every second, and so just I always use that as an indicator that the system's still doing what it should be doing. But anyways, we'll click on these and you get this screen, and this is where you can turn them on or off manually, and that's what these red dots represent. If the outlet has a red dot on it, that means that outlet is in auto mode. And if you hover over the red dot, it says resume auto. So if we click that, now it's out of auto mode. When an outlet's in, or it's out of manual mode, sorry. When an outlet's in manual mode, no schedule, no custom rule, nothing will turn that outlet on or off. It's locked in the state you put it in. Even if the controllers restart it, it'll come back when it's powered back up. They'll know they were in auto mode or manual mode, and they'll go back in manual mode. When you click on these, you can see they update instantly, but here's our back end here. So I'm going to shut the program off. This is our terminal for the Raspberry Pi. You can see we lost our connection and our meter went to 0. Now I can click on these and nothing happens. And same with our DC ports, nothing happens there. If we turn our program back on, now they work again. So that is how that system works. The resume button on the home page, when you click that, all these outlets and DC ports will go back in automatic mode. So I haven't enabled that yet, but that's what will happen. So that's that. Now we'll go over the graphs. Right now there's just basic graphs for temperature and pH. It doesn't graph the humidity just yet. So we've got them on the home page, and we've got a chart screen here, and they're all on this screen as well. All the settings are the same for dashboard and here. You can hide them or show what you want, and the home screen, now we only have 2, and you can scroll through them. I believe you should be able to swipe on a phone. That's all the data. This is how much data is shown in the window: 1 hour, 6 hour, 24 hour, 3 hour, 7 or 3 day, 7 day, 14 day, 30 day, 90 day, and you can scroll them all. We have what's called a moving average, and so now this is raw readings, no averaging, so it doesn't look so great. And if we average things out, now we get a nice line. So that just helps clean up the graph. And different resolutions, you'll want different moving averages. All these are saved to database as well. So that's our charting for today. Now we'll go over our scheduling system. So down on our dock we have our schedules. If we click that, we get the list of schedules. You can filter them up here: AC schedules, DC, dosing pumps, and these last 3, they don't work right now, as those will be coming. If you click on one of these, it'll spell it out, what it's going to do, and then do whatever. You can edit it, just change whatever info you want, enable, disable, and you can add one. So if we pick what you want, DC port, DC1, give it a name, give it a time, on or off, select days of the week, or you can repeat every X number of days, enable, disable, save. Now it says repeat every 4 days, and we'll delete that schedule, yes, and it's gone. So that is our scheduling system. Now we'll go over the light modes. So on our dock here we have our light modes. If we click that, we get our list of light modes that are set up. If you click on any one of them, you get the different LED channels or on the controller that you're using. You can just move the sliders up or down, or type in your number. When you hover, you get the value. You can edit, or you can arrange them. Now, this arranging is only for the front end. In case you're making special scheduling, maybe, yeah, I don't want to get into a scenario, but you can just sort the order. In the background, it'll just go by the date or the time. So that's about it. You can delete a schedule, and of course you can disable them. And if you add one, it just wants the same as if you're creating a regular schedule. Just put in the time, when you want the mode to start, when you want the mode to end, and the dates it should run. And that is the scheduling for lights. Now we'll get into the custom rules. So on our dock again, we have rules, and if we click on that, here's our list of custom rules set up. Custom rules allow you to use any parameter to turn on any equipment or off. You can actually use two different parameters. So we have an ATO start and an ATO stop. You can see if sensor 1 and sensor 2 are not touching water, do this, and if sensor 1 or sensor 2 is touching water, do that, and send out some alerts. You can disable these. Right now you can't edit, so you just have to delete and add back if you make a mistake. You can add a custom rule. It'll ask you what sensor, pick internal. The default temp is the actual temp of the sensor, so that's your starting point. You can set it to the level you want, greater than or less than. Hit next. How long should it hold the value before it triggers the custom rule? It's recommended to have some kind of delay, just so you don't get a bad reading that triggers it. So if you go 20, it's going to have to stay over that for 20 consecutive seconds. Add a second, sure. Now it'll say what happens for the first if internal is less than 93.6 for 20 seconds, and we can say room temperature, and then both should kind of work together. So go next. Again, you want a delay. Now we can select the equipment. Only the equipment you have enabled will show up here. You cycle through by clicking on them. On is green, red is off, green red is on off, and red green is off on. So maybe you want it to turn outlet 10 on and 13 off and on, and then you'd hit next. And also let's add a dosing pump here. There's only 2 actions for that one. Hit next. So now we get this here, a delay for how long should this outlet turn on. So when this custom rule triggers with 0 seconds, these will all trigger immediately as soon as the custom rule starts. Now it wouldn't make sense to have no delay for this on off, otherwise off would never count. It would just go off on. So you'd put something like a 10-second delay for off. So now we're on. So it would go off, 10 seconds later it would come back on. For a dosing pump, there's one extra you can put in ignore. I've got to put a better description in here, but what this is now if you put in 60 minutes, a dosing pump will never run again for 60 minutes, even if this rule runs before the 60 minutes expires. So if you trigger this rule 10 times within 60 minutes, that pump will have only ran once within that 60 minutes. So just kind of a backup. Give it a name, select, and now you can review it and then save it if you like, or just get out. So that is how those work. So I'll just show you an example here of a custom rule running. So this is one where we have running. I purposely have no delay so that we can do it instant. So we'll come to our dashboard. You can see our ATO is off and our 2 dosing pumps. I'll flip our float. Now you can see this dosing pump is going to run and that outlet turned on. Off, on, off, on. Now you can see this dosing pump isn't going to run again because it already ran. If we go to our back end, you can see, I'm going to move this float quick, and you can see the on-off is happening instant. So that outlet is going off, on, off, on, off, on. So it all happens in real time. So I'm just going to go over the dosing pumps quickly. On the front, you can see them here. If we go to our settings, we have our dosing pumps, and here you can edit the name. So we can put in any name we want. Just click on the check or click out, and it'll update. And then you can change the dose amount up or down. You can refill by just clicking to refill. if you get to 0 doses, the dosing pump will not actually run, so make sure when it does get to 0, you come hit the refill. Later I'll probably put an option to just bypass that, so that could be a problem, but anyways, that's how that is. Here we've got our more settings. If we come into here, we can change our reservoir capacity, we can do a calibration, and you can enable a stir. This feature will work. It'll look like it's working, but there's no way to assign a stir yet, so it doesn't work. Minimum delay between doses. This is just a feature, kind of like the custom rules. So if you put a half an hour, and the longer you hold any button within the program, it'll do this, just speed up so it's not too painful. Later you'll be able to type it in, but this minimum delay is right now 15 minutes. This pump will not run automatically more than once in a 15-minute period. Manual dose will still override that. The counter will not be reset, and it'll just continue counting there. So that is our dosing pumps. Oh, calibrate, I'll just show that quickly. Here it just tells you what to do. Set your calibration amount and just adjust the pump rate. Hit manual dose. If you dose too much, just go up, down until you get the right dose. And then when you're finished, you're finished. So that's how our dosing pumps work. So we'll go over the few settings that are in the system. We go to settings, we've got our configure ports that we went over earlier. We got our dosing pumps that we went over, and our email. Here you can add your email address. If you use Outlook or Gmail, you can just click one of them, enter in the email address, password, and your admin email. This will be used later to do administrative things, alerts, and you can do up to 3 recipients. And if you don't want those 2, you just enable, disable. Other, you can just actually add the SMTP server, the port, and then the other good stuff. So that's how those are. Calibrate probes and system. So we'll do our system settings. We got Celsius and we've got our clocks. So now we're in the 24-hour format, and you can see everything is now in Celsius. Our charts too. And if we come back, we'll go back to our 12-hour, you can see that updated. And our Fahrenheit, we're back in Fahrenheit. So that is that. Calibrate probes, we've got our pH. Any pH probes that show up will be here. You can do a 1 point, 2 point, or delete it. If you do 1 point, it'll tell you what to do. Here, set your buffer, hit start, it'll ask yes. And now you just wait for the pH to stabilize. It's waiting for 60 seconds at plus minus 0.003 accuracy. So if this goes to 8.4, that's out of range too much and the counter will start over. So just wait till that happens and we'll just stop that. So that is our settings for now. So I just want to go over one nice little feature for our temperature sensors. So you can see I have 3 plugged in, internal, waterproof, and transistor. So I'm just going to unplug one of them. And you can see waterproof disappeared because it's not plugged in. So it just knows when you unplug one that it is not there. We'll unplug transistor, it's gone. Plug it back in, and it remembers, hey, that same sensor is transistor. And then plug in our waterproof, and same thing. So what happens if we plug in a brand new sensor that it doesn't know? So here's a program, we're going to stop it, and then we're going to come, you'll see this goes red, and I'm just going to unplug these 2 sensors. We're going to go into our database. Here's our 2 sensors. We're going to delete waterproof, delete transistor. Now the program has no idea those 2 sensors exist. We'll start our program back up. And now it's running with these sensors here. And I'm going to plug one in. Oh, it just detected a new sensor with a sensor ID, and that's the ID of that sensor. Now, it's not recommended to plug 2 or more in at the same time, otherwise you won't know what is what. But I know that one is our transistor, so we'll hit save. And now we have transistor. Plug in another one. And there we go, waterproof. And you can see the ID is different. That's the ID of that sensor. So now you can see in our database those two are saved, and it will always know what those sensors are when you plug them in. A chart is created as soon as a new sensor is added and starts logging right away, so there's nothing to do. And we have a similar thing for our I2C devices. Those are things like our pH sensor, the PCA 9685 driver, and then down the road other sensors that use that. So we have our pH running. So right now we're just going to stop our program, and we're going to go into our database, and you can see if we refresh our probes, there's our probe sump pH. And if we go to our I2C devices, there's our 99. So let's delete our device, and then if we go back to our probes, you can see it cleaned up. That table there, the database has relationships, so it cleans itself up. And now we'll refresh this, and you can see our pH is gone. So let's start up our program again and see what happens here. Oh, it found a new I2C device. Address 99. Would you connect pH or the PCA? Those are only two options right now, so we'll say a pH, give it a name, save, and that's it. We got our new sump pH. Give it a second, and there she goes. When that happens, you get the chart as well as added, and it just starts logging, so there's nothing really to do with those either. So that's the Robo-Tank app as of today. There's a lot more to come. As I mentioned earlier, it hasn't been released yet. The beta is coming shortly, next couple weeks. And yeah, the system will only grow from here. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching.